Welcome if you're on Zoom or if you're on LinkedIn to today's webinar. My name is Madeline Edlin, and I am the product marketing manager for EFI, or the Equitable Food Initiative. Today, we're going to be talking about people and pollinators, EFI certification for multiple retailer requirements. I'm super excited to kick off today's webinar, which is our first spring pollinator webinar in a series that we're doing this spring. Today, we'll focus on a question that we hear quite often from growers, which is how can we effectively meet multiple retailer requirements around social responsibility and pest management requirements all in one without multiple audits? The good news is we find lots of growers are already doing a lot of these, what they need and to meet these expectations. And today we'll walk through exactly how EFI certification integrates social responsibility and integrated pest management, or IPM, into a single program that aligns with retailers' expectations, including those IPM expectations and requirements. So today's webinar is going to be super conversational. I'll walk us through some key points, and then we'll end with a short Q&A with questions from the audience. So before we kick off officially, if you have questions throughout the webinar, or if you think of something, feel free to put it in the chat or the Q&A feature in Zoom. If you use the Q&A feature in Zoom, it will be anonymous. We will not see your name, or in the chat if you're on LinkedIn. With that, I would like to introduce Carla Cook, EFI Certification Manager, who is our local expert and will be answering our questions. Carla, welcome.
Hi, Madeline. Thank you very much for having me and look forward to this dynamic conversation.
It's going to be dynamic. We're just going to chit chat about bugs and people. It's going to be great. All right, so I'm going to kick us off with our first question. Um, let's start with kind of a big picture. Stepping back, retailers are increasingly asking growers about both social responsibility and IPM and best practices. Why are these areas getting so much attention?
Yeah, so there's a different interests and different concerns coming from, I would say, from consumers, and then definitely from retailers wanting to have a safe and responsible supply chain, right? And driving them to do better, manage better, and produce better products, while also being responsible with that workforce that is producing those goods. So I think that there's a different streams of interest if you see it from the big picture. But in particular in our line of work, it's retailers wanting to get more in depth into what our growers doing, and also recommending the different options for growers to what to use to manage their pest management decisions, because that is I know, and you have that question is what is integrated pest management, right? So basically is the basis of pest management decisions is the process of growers, fresh produce growers, if I want to be very specific to what we know, we manage as a program is fresh produce in particular. So the integrated pest management process is the guidelines, or how giving parameters on how to best solve the pest management issues that growers have while minimizing the risk to people and the environment. So it's a long-term prevention process from an EFI standpoint.
Awesome. And I know you have a long history with seeing how workers are integrated with pesticide use and IPM. And can you kind of walk us through the history of it, of back in the day, why did this become an issue?
Yeah. So, this goes back, these efforts of understanding and monitoring and managing the impact of pesticide goes all the way back to the 1970s. That sounds a long time ago, but I mean it's just a couple of years ago. But So back in the 70s, 77, late 70s, early 80s, especially in Europe, there was a lot of emphasis on not precisely retailers, but big fresh produce brands.
Mm,
And then also in the agricultural area where the use of pesticides and fertilizers was directly connected to the health of workers. Back in, early, late 1990s and early 2000s, there were big exposés on big fruit companies such as Chiquita Brands, Dole, um, where there was a big emphasis. Uh, oh, sorry about that. So there is a big emphasis on the damage that and the confirmed damage that pesticides were having on workers,
mm,
fresh produce workers. So that there was a requirement where these producers had to start auditing and showing compliance on the initiatives on their how they were managing pesticides. Rainforest Alliance was the one that was used as the to go certification process to demonstrate compliance with that. So Chiquita Brands, Dole started with Rainforest Alliance. So Rainforest Alliance is like one of the pioneers. I mean, there's many other cases, but
yeah,
basically that's one of the ones that are more resonating back in the day. So that's a
that's
little bit
amazing.
of the history. Mhm.
That's amazing that it's been around for that long and that it's been, that really it started back in the 70s and IPM has been kind of a tool for better human health at the farm gate, which is really cool because we just think about it as like, oh, it's just a requirement you have to get to now, like something you just have to do. So the fact that it was, it started as like a real world issue and a way to improve worker health is very great history lesson, Carla. We love to hear it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's yeah, it's quite impressive where it started, at ground level, and then now brands have had to take over just
Mhm.
because the consumer is
Yeah.
pressing on that.
Yeah. Yeah, the consumer's finally catching up with realizing the importance of these movements and
Yes.
then
Yes.
putting the pressure on the retailer and then the grower and supplier.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on a little bit. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about EFI.
Yeah.
How does EFI certification help growers or suppliers meet those retailer expectations of IPM and social responsibility?
Yeah. So the EFI program is a customized audit approach where not only do we offer the certification process for social responsibility, but we are able to integrate the integrated pest management standards as one whole standard and one certificate if you need that, right? If a supplier needs both, they can go through their certification process and produce one cert with one audit, where not only the worker engagement, collaboration, working conditions, um, wages, worker safety, etc., are reviewed, but also the connection of the pest management process linked to worker safety, good practices, and also training and workers having a voice on sharing more what are the potential issues that they're seeing on the ground.
Mm,
So our certification process gives that space and also helps growers reduce audit fatigue. And our standard is recognized by multiple retailers, so their cert can be shared with the Walmarts, the Costco's, the Whole Foods, and we are a third-party verification process, and it's a good way of demonstrating compliance.
I really like what you said about that the workers are involved in that process because I imagine, I am not a farm worker, but I imagine that people who are dealing with the risks of the pesticides and dealing with on the ground issues that having that voice through EFI to be like, hey, this is what we should be doing. This is maybe an opportunity for continuous improvement or something that we could do better next time. I imagine that's something that's fairly unique to EFI because we have the social responsibility and the people first perspective. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. And there's like three main connections I would say there. Number one, our integrated pest management standards are reviewed through, sorry, are validated. Part of the validation of implementation at the site is through worker interview.
Mm,
So like prevention measures. Are workers aware that they should not enter a field once or X amount of hours after a pesticide has been applied?
right.
Are they aware of that? Do they receive training? So you can cross-reference, the requirement versus what is happening on the ground. And if there's some discrepancies, provide that feedback, effective feedback
Mhm.
to the grower. So, hey, your people, not just what, I mean, your people in general are being at risk. This is important. You should mitigate this. So that's one. So you have that cross verification.
Yeah.
Then traceability is also important. Our integrated pest management has tools for growers to make better decisions that not only benefit workers, but also their own production process.
Mm,
Because if you want to make sound decisions that are also economically relevant
right.
to them, right? So that's one, the second one. And the third one, I would just say, it avoids them managing one process on one side and then the other one on another and not seeing the correlation that they have together. So this gives them the opportunity to manage one program with two topics. So
Right.
mhm.
Right. And you mentioned reducing audit fatigue because these retailers, many retailers, not to be like these retailers, but many retailers are asking for social responsibility and IPM, which is why we're talking about this today. But can you just like briefly talk about how if a grower is like, okay, we're gonna do the EFI program, so we're gonna do the whole social responsibility part, which is our main thing, and then we're gonna add on the IPM, the integrated pest management standards. How much does that add to the audit and like the whole process to getting EFI certified? Is it like times two? Is it times half? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's an add-on that is not like heavily, it's not a big lift
Okay,
if they are already doing it. So most growers will already be working with some type of consultant on pest management, administration, etc. So it's an add-on, maybe a half a day or a day plus audit. And there's a little bit more cost associated to that, but it's
sure.
not a separate audit. And
Right.
we are in about to complete strengthening our auditor qualifications,
Okay.
where our social auditors are also able to audit to integrated pest management as well. So you have this one knowledgeable auditor that would be able to provide that service in one visit with
That's awesome.
yeah. So
That seems like such a win.
it is. And you would say, oh, and anybody can challenge that auditors, what does a social auditor know about pesticide management? And they're like, well, their ability to audit and cross-check and review um different topics is so unique that this additional topic, which is about documentation.
Right.
They don't have to be that technical because they're
Hmm.
not assessing their they're assessing compliance,
Right.
policies, procedures, and implementations. They're
Yeah.
not assessing the quality of the pesticide or this or that. That's not the technicality about our IPM standards, right? It's policy, procedures, implementations, verification. So that's a big win. And then auditors are also excited. I mean, I'm speaking from an auditing perspective as well, but it enables our auditors to be more capable, more competent, and have better engagement with our growers, our certified operations, and provide a better auditing experience, which for me, auditing, people don't like audit, but what I
Weird. That's so weird. People don't like audits.
it's like, oh, I want to be audited. Like, no, nobody likes that. But our thought is use this process as a way of just verifying how you're doing. It's
Yeah.
very good feedback. And
Yeah.
if you take it with that perspective, it's a good way of improvement.
Couple of things I want to dig into there. So I think sometimes growers can, maybe they're selling into Whole Foods or the Walmarts of the world where IPM and pollinator health is top of mind, and maybe they need to get a certification. So they're looking around and they're like, oh my gosh, this is a whole other lift. We have to do a whole nother thing. And IPM standards, what does that mean? It sounds complicated. What does that actually look like on the farm? You said that many growers are already doing the work. Can you kind of dive into what that looks like, and is it complicated? Teach me more.
Yeah, so I think that let's be real, right? Let's be real. I mean, any additional verification process for a grower, it's going to be a pain. It is a fact. However, growers are already making decisions on what their crops require to combat whatever pests they will be facing. There are monetary decisions around that,
Right.
budget, etc. Um, and then they should be tracking these when they are applying this. So although it's a heavy lift, what this does, like any other management system does, is that um, when you implement this pest management process, it's kind of a decision hub for all pest management decisions. So they just have, it's like putting together their plan and monitoring it, and
Mhm.
then using the standards as a guidance.
Mm.
So it is, yes, it is something different that they might be doing just in paper, probably,
Right. Right.
but we provide an additional tool that they have to feed into. There's some policies so it's bringing kind of order to what they are already doing,
Hmm.
or a little bit more steps of having a good robust plan. So yeah, it's work. So I
It's
cannot.
work, but it's formalizing something that might already exist and giving tools to complete what they need for their retailer customers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that, like, yeah, we can create these structures and these frames and these tools. And like you said, the audit is a great piece of feedback to learn where you can grow. And it's not a pass-fail situation. It's a thing where you can get feedback.
Yeah, but and then also I want to point out something else that we have seen some of our certified operations go from one standard to ours, for example.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they are already used to doing something, but they're going with ours because, for the worker safety, for whatever
Sure.
reasons, right?
Yeah.
But so there might already be doing something, but these standards will add something or more will be a little bit more rigorous, probably,
Sure.
than the other standards that they're doing, or different. So you might have both scenarios. So somebody who has already been going through some type of audit on
Yeah.
pollinators, and somebody who hasn't. but
Right.
still doing the work.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Okay, we're starting to run out of time, which is
Okay.
terrifying that this is going so fast. But I do want to just like, this is all about how EFI certification can kind of solve multiple retailer requirements all at once. So, one thing that is unique about EFI's IPM standards is our focus on worker engagement. That's kind of what we do. From a retailer perspective, so putting on a retailer lenses, how does that connect to pest management and pollinator protection?
So, I'm sorry, Madeline. Do you mean what's the connection of the farm practices
Right.
with?
So we had talked about, like to me, retailers probably want confidence that farm practices are consistently being implemented at the field.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah, yeah.
got it. Okay, yeah. So, th this is interesting. So, retailers will look at our standard, right?
Mhm.
Before, and they will benchmark it against what their expectations on this.
Sure.
So, because they take that and because this is implemented at operation level, um, the audit and the corrective action process provides that confidence to retailer that these practices are actually being implemented, monitored, and corrected
Hmm.
if when needed. So, uh, the observation of implementation is critical for retailers. That is where you get a lot of trust in the process.
Right.
And I am seeing now with, particular retailers that they're want to go in more into how is the process? What are you monitoring? What is the data that is coming
Mm-hmm.
up? Where do growers struggle the most? So, it's bringing forth more of a realization that this is being implemented, but then again, there's challenges to it, and they want to understand better what are the challenges. So there's a lot of trust in our. I cannot say about the other standards, but what I've seen is that our EFI's integrated pest management standards meet the expectation of the retailers in on what they foresee or what they have in their mind as compliant with pollinators.
Yeah, retailers are no longer just satisfied, or it seems like the trend is no longer satisfied just seeing like a check mark, but they want to see what that certification actually means. And
Yes.
can you kind of walk us through a little bit how like workers are the closest to the daily crops and how EFI certification ensures like that the pesticides are being used safely and more on that a little bit?
Yeah, so our standards oversee that there's training in place for worker safety, training in place for pesticide management. There is close monitoring of type of pesticides used.
Mm.
There is analysis done on how often this is used, and also guardrails on if you use a high risk pesticide, then what is the frequency you should use that pesticide again. So
Right.
guardrails there. So it's very detailed on that aspect. And also on around the plantations or the production sites, what are those other natural habitats that growers have to, recreate or produce?
Yeah.
So that is, the pollinator piece is in place.
Okay, awesome. With our few minutes remaining, we're going to jump into some live Q&A. So if you have another question, feel free to pop it in the chat. I've gotten a few as we've talked. And so let's just kick it off with the first one. We have about 6 minutes left, so let's roll through these. This is a great question. Can you audit the pest to only the well, if I can read, it's a great question. Can you audit to only the pest management standards, or do you have to do the social standards as well? Assuming this is talking about EFI certification.
Yes. So the standalone, we don't offer a standalone certification for pest management,
Okay.
but it is highly recommended that if you need a social labor responsibility standard, it can easily be incorporated the integrated pest management, but not a standalone offer.
Gotcha. You have to do social responsibility and then you can add on the IPM standards if you need it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
This is great because you mentioned our retailers, but maybe not the exhaustive list. So what retailers accept EFI certification for IPM?
So we have the Costco's, Costco US, Costco Canada, we have Whole Foods, we have Walmart, we have Target, um, but I think Albertsons. Oh,
Yeah,
here we
we
go.
have Whole
Ahold,
Foods. Go ahead.
Ahold, this one I always have trouble
Ahold Delhaize.
Yeah, Albertsons, Safeway, um, and yeah, those are
And
the ones. And it's curious because not only retailers, but I know some. I've heard some of our growers, but they never share with me which ones. Like food services, food
mm,
services that they sometimes take our cert. But we have Loblaws and the Krogers. Yeah.
yeah. So just to read off that list one more time, Whole Foods, Costco, Ahold Delhaize, Walmart, Target, Albertsons, Safeway, Loblaw, and Kroger. And then, yeah, so quite all the big boys, one might
Uh,
say.
Boys. Yep.
Um, okay, one other question. I think we can fit it in really quick. What cost is there associated with the IPM standards, beyond just the audit cost?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't have the exact amount of dollars, but I would say the added time to use some of the tools that we would require. We require the um PRT tool, which is the pesticide risk management tool. This is this is access to a program. EFI covers the cost of that access to the program. Is not an associated dollar cost added to this. Um, but there is a cost of the added time whomever is managing this process. So there's not a specific like audit cost. So I'm sorry. There's a audit cost, yes, but additional to that, I would say in dollars, we don't have any number, but in time, yes.
Sure, that makes sense because you're formalizing something that might not have existed before, where it does, like you said, on paper, and then we're putting it into a system. But EFI covers the PRT tool, and then you do have the audit cost, but it's minimal because we have our trained, or we're training our social auditors to be able to audit these IPM standards, which is going to be a huge time, auditor time savings, which equals huge auditor cost savings, which is great. All right, any other questions, everybody? Get them in quick before we hop into talking about our next webinar in this series, which is very exciting. Next webinar we have is going to be drum roll, People and Pollinators EFI certified and Be Better on April 15th. This is really exciting. We have another star in this world, Be Better certified from Xerxes Society, is going to come and talk with us about their certification, how they meet different retailer requirements, than EFI, what might be a better fit, EFI versus Be Better. And really, we just want to sit down and chat pollinators with our friends over at Be Better. So come on April 15th. It'll be another free 30-minute webinar. Alexandra dropped the link in the chat, so you can register there. Otherwise, I think we're at time, Carla.
We are. Thank
I
you very much.
appreciate you coming and talking about pollinators and IPM and educating us on multiple retailer requirements with EFI. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email at info@equitablefood.org. And have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you, Madeline.